In this episode of the 52 Ways Project, I'm interviewing Edgar Macias. Edgar got his real estate license in 2002 and his broker's license in 2005. He initially started his own property management company while working for corporate America. However, he got laid off a couple times and then decided to go full-time with his own company. Since 2010, he's been a full-time operator of his own property management company ever since. At first, he managed other people's properties with the goal of becoming an investor. It was a great experience because investors would come to him with their tenant or property issues, asking him to help them solve their problems. However, he quickly learned to be an effective property manager, attracting quality tenants. He used this knowledge to get partners to invest in his deals. His main strategy is to find ugly properties in great areas, renovate them, attract quality tenants, and then do cash out refis. He plans to keep all of his properties long term. He currently resides in California with his wife Miriam and his newborn baby daughter. And now, without further ado, let's jump into the interview. All right, welcome. This is Eric, one half of the Think Tank, and today I have the distinct pleasure of having a guest for the very first time, Mr. Edgar Macias.
Hello.
How are you, Edgar?
I'm great, thank you, Eric.
Again, you are our first guest, and one of many to come. But, every now and again, people get tired of hearing me and Brian speak about, pontificate about different things that we know. And so it's nice to bring someone else that's fresh, who's an expert in what they do. And so today we're going to talk about what it is that you do, which is real estate investing, and more importantly, how you've been able to leverage the banking policy. That's what the majority of our audience wants to know, how to really get the most out of their policy. And so we're going to dive into that. I gave some tidbits about your bio. Is there anything else maybe that you want to add that maybe wasn't in there? Maybe any secrets that you might want to reveal out here to the internet where it stays forever?
I've been doing property management since 2005. And I went full time. So yeah, I've been doing this for a while.
Okay.
Anyway, so
I gotta give you much props because that's something that I cannot do. I've tried it and I've failed miserably. Tenants, termites, and toilets is not something that I've developed a really tried and true system around. Really get cracking that nut. So congrats to you. You've been able to really figure that out, and you do a really good job doing it. It's your business.
Yeah.
That's what you. So I'm kind of curious. How do you, other than managing properties, are you investing actively? What's your preferred method of investing?
So yeah, definitely. I learned a lot from property management, learned from a lot of my clients and investors' mistakes. So it allowed me to actually use that knowledge and invest in real estate. So I've been investing in real estate, and my preferred is buying fixer-uppers, mismanaged properties, renovating them, and then attracting quality tenants and doing a cash out refinance, getting our money back in either from the down payment or rehab, and then doing more deals.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my preferred strategy. I like keeping long-term. I'm all about the cash flow.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, cash flow is king. As we say, cash is king. Cash flow is king. You can't eat equity. Those are my favorite phrases. So it sounds like that aligns with you as well. Let's step back for a moment. I know that we had it was a very particular set of circumstances where we met. It was on a real estate summit cruise that was done by the real estate guys each year. And so 2012 that we met?
Yes.
Back on the cruise? Okay. And, we share a lot in common. We're both the same age, and we both started our policies at the exact same time. Well, not exact, same year. And so the person that we have in common that actually invited us to that cruise and subsequently issued us a policy was Patrick, right? So talk to me about kind of your interaction, how you met Patrick, the CEO of Paradigm Life, and what that experience was like.
Okay. Yeah. So Patrick actually came to our real estate club, the Real Estate Guys. And we had a club we meet once a month at the time. And he came and he spoke about the infinite banking system. And what really caught my attention was the fact that he said we can be the bank. And then once we contribute to this policy after a few years, it actually pays for itself. So those 2 points really caught my attention, and I really wanted to know more. I called him immediately after, and I told him to, I'm really interested and I want to know more about it.
Right.
So.
Okay. and you eventually made the leap, right? And right now you actually have multiple policies. Sounds like, right?
Yeah, I do.
I'll tell you, my story was a little bit different. I actually found Patrick online, like many of our think tankers did, and so this was 2011, and there wasn't much information out there. It really, again, it was just I was in shock and awe that this even existed. And the more he taught me, the more it made sense. And so I was right there on the edge about to, initiate a policy, but I still needed a little bit more confirmation.
Yeah.
And so embarrassingly enough, I ended up flying out here to Salt Lake City just to make sure this place existed, right? And it wasn't some scam.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it existed, obviously. And, and I'm better off for it. I formed a lifelong friendship with Patrick, and it's been life-changing. So thank you for sharing your story. Mine was a little bit circuitous, if you will, but yeah, thank you. So I've got some actually pictures that you sent me about your properties. Let me just show those to the audience real quick. Let's see here. So this is before and after one of your properties. Here's a bigger picture of one of your properties here. So this is the before. You are actually going in. This piece of trash right here, man.
Yeah, it was the ugliest property on the lot. I love it.
This is some garbage. Wow.
Yeah.
But you actually took that trash and you made it a treasure, right? Definitely. And this is what you do all the time. This is what you specialize in. You actually have a system of folks that folks that you trust and do the job really well. And this is what you do. So that's cool. That's really cool. So get you back on here. Stop share. All right. So talk to me about how you actually use the policy. How do you use the policy in conjunction with real estate investing?
Okay. So for this example, the fourplex you just showed, basically we used it for the down payment for that one.
All right.
And the reason why I like to use the policy is basically as a real estate professional, I can write off the loan payments.
Okay.
So it's a benefit. And then I understand as if you give yourself a loan through the policy, and you make payments over time, it grows the cash flow, the cash value. So that was my strategy. That's what I want to do. And to me, that was the best way to do it.
And so your first transaction using the policy was actually with that home we just saw, the fourplex we just saw.
Exactly.
And it was for the down payment.
It's for the down payment. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. So I'll just for the audience's sake, we will talk about more details around the numbers and how that worked out after the interview. But right now I want to kind of keep it high level and just really talk about how your experience with the policy and how you've used it. So let's see here. Did you have any fears going into it? I mean, using the policy and putting it in place, and if so, were those realized?
Yeah. So I guess my only concern was when I first got into it. I mean, when Patrick went through this whole series of educational, I told Patrick I was in it on day one. He didn't have to go through all that. I was really interested. Mm-hmm. But the only, I guess, concern that I had was, can I budget for this? There was a certain minimum that you got to keep up to the policy.
Yeah.
So that was my only concern. But Patrick obviously said, start with something that you can afford. And he really made me feel better, and he answered my concerns very, very well. And the fact that also that it pays for itself over time. After a few years, it started paying for itself.
Right. Right. Almost that last piece you said there, it almost sounds like it's like real estate, like rental real estate, in that, you don't get into rental real estate for 1 year or 2 years. You would lose money in a normal market. And so just like that, the policy structure is very similarly. You make your money back in the first few years, and after that, it's gravy, right? It's like a rocket that's trying to get up off the ground. After you reach the point, the gas, the fuel cells fall off, and you got this amazing momentum going forward. So it is a very much long-term play. You recognize that, again, because I would assume it's because of your experience with rental real estate. You have that long-term vision. So
and that's what I understood too, is just the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
So for a powerful tool to have as this, that was the cost of doing business, and it was totally worth it.
Okay. Excellent. And so what advice is kind of, as we tie things up here, what advice would you give to those who have a policy and are a bit hesitant on using it for real estate, or those who don't have a policy and are just listening to this for the first time, what advice would you give about if they're on the fence and using their policy?
I think with a lot of concerns and fears, it's just that people are not educated. So educate yourself. That's the number one advice. Just
right.
There's many resources out there. This podcast think tank is great. And basically Paradigm also offers many resources. So just get yourself educated, talk to other people who have policies. And I think the other, people who are on the fence, or not even on the fence, who are actually have the policies, maybe they just don't know how to use it.
Sure.
How to maximize it. So talk to other people who are, how they're using it, what are the strategies they're doing. It doesn't even have to be for real estate. It could be for any other. I'm sure there's so many different strategies you can do that would be perfect for whatever you want to do. So you just got to talk to people and get educated.
Excellent. Yeah. On that note, I will also tell you, you may or may not have known this, but let me share screens really quick here. As far as people using it, speaking of that, we actually, we went on that cash flow summit, and from that point, back in 2012, we've actually really aligned with a bunch of real estate advisors. Awesome. And so, they are actually Paradigm. Many of them are Paradigm clients now, and so just kind of as some social proof, if you will. We put on an event, a joint event each year, Paradigm Life, called the Cash Flow Wealth Summit. I would encourage anyone listening, if they haven't registered for that and checked out those recordings from the video we did from the summit we did back in June. We had over 11,000 participants. Wow. In about 34. We had a bunch of presenters as well. So a bunch of real estate rich dad advisors, if you will. But man. So that's I think that's it for today. Again, Edgar, thanks so much for joining us today. And again, I appreciate you. Again, first interview here, and
it's an honor. Thanks, man.
Hopefully, you won't be embarrassed 10 years from now when this is out there on the internet and your daughter discovers this. All right, buddy. Well, hopefully, I'll see you on the next summit. Or if I'm ever out in Cali, hopefully, maybe I can stay in one of your fourplexes or something.
Anytime.
I don't know. All right, buddy. Well, to your prosperity. Thanks a lot.
All right, Eric. Thanks.
All right, welcome back. Hopefully you all got as much out of that as I did. It's always good to see hear about someone's experience with the policy and why they chose one method over another. And so at this point, it's time for us to actually look under the hood and actually look at some numbers, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. How does this affect you? How does this add value as opposed to the conventional method of taking money from a bank? So that's what we're going to do right now. First things first, we're going to look at a bank. Taking a down payment from a bank. So in this particular scenario, Edgar, and by the way, for the sake of time, I've done a lot of the calculations for you. If you want to go over it, talk about how I got to some of these numbers or arrived at some of these numbers, let's have a conversation, okay? So for this particular first transaction, Edgar, he takes a withdrawal from his bank, from his account, and he puts that into the property as a down payment, his fourplex, okay? Let's assume in this transaction he's getting 8% after everything is accounted for, vacancies, capital reserves, vacancies, maintenance, things like that. He's making 8% a year on that money, and he's holding the property for 10 years before he sells it. So if we look here, $100,000, he's making 8%, which is $8,000 a year, times 10 gives us $80,000. And let's assume he's in the 25% tax bracket. I imagine it's probably higher, but for right now, let's assume he's in the 25% tax bracket, which gives him $60,000 profit that he'll be able to take home at the end of the day after it's all said and done. Okay? All right, so now let's transition to the bank policy. All right, so we did cash from the bank, and now Edgar is taking he's taking a loan from his policy against his cash value. All right, so same situation, 8% on his money. This is going to be evaluated over 10 years. And what we have here, remember, for those who forgot, okay, in case you forgot, that money he has in his policy continues to grow. So that $100,000 is not what he's taking out. In other words, he's not withdrawing that money. He's taking a loan against his $100,000, which allows it to keep growing at that 5%, okay? He's taking a loan against that, which is from the insurance company's general fund. That's leverage. That's what we love as real estate investors, okay? So let's look at what that means. So that $100,000 continues to grow inside the policy over the course of that 10 years. If we pull up a calculator here, $100,000 over 10 years at 5% gives us almost $63,000 of interest that we're earning, compounding, okay? We'll call it $62,000 just to be conservative. So we got $62,000 growth in the policy. At the same time, that money comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. And so we are paying for that, for the use of those dollars. And for that money, we are paying 5%. The insurance company charges us 5%. And so in this case, we are, that will cost us $27,000 in interest, okay? Amortized over 10 years. But again, the tenants are paying for this loan. So it's not like this is coming out of Edgar's pocket per se. The tenants, by way of them paying their rent, he's accounted for this, and this is all factored into his calculation. So they are paying for his loan. So over 10 years, he's paying $27,000 back to the insurance company in interest. And so we take that out of the equation. So we're left with $35,000 that Edgar gets to keep, okay? One other thing I want to mention here is that the fact that Edgar is a financial professional. What does that mean? That means he gets to deduct any loans he has against the property, okay? Check with your CPA if you're eligible for this deduction. I'm pretty sure it has to do with you being a financial professional, the definition of what that is. But in this case, with him being a 25% tax bracket, he gets to take $67.50 in tax savings, okay? So he walks home with $35,000 because he has this policy and $67.50 in tax savings. When we add that all together, the $60,000 of investment returns that he would have gotten anyway, okay? He would have gotten that anyway, whether he did the cash or the policy. $60,000 there, $35,000 from the growth in the policy growth, which is what we have right here, and then the $67.50 in tax rebates because he's got a loan that he's taken as a down payment from his policy, and he gets to deduct that interest, okay? What we have is $101,750, $101,750. Remember up top, we had $60,000, okay? Now we have 101. If we do the math, we have an increase in value. Let's see here. We have an increase in value of 69.5%, okay? Almost 70% more of value or return that we're making by using our policy as opposed to the conventional method of taking cash from a bank, just by storing our money differently. That's it, okay? So there you have it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look into a little bit further into his policy. I'm going to recreate the policy and look at some of the dynamics of how the policy would have looked for him and what we get there as well, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually take a look at Edgar's policy, actually a recreation of Edgar's policy. Understand that he actually has a couple policies that he pulled from in order to get his down payment for his fourplex. But what I've done is I've combined those into one, and we're going to analyze what a policy might look like for those who've never really seen a policy, or if you have a policy, this might be just a reminder of kind of how your policy performs and what's going on with it. So let's get started. So first and foremost, I want to highlight the fact that he's paying $27,000 into his policy. Understand that there's flexibility is how we design these, and so in his case, his minimum is about $5,000 and his maximum is $27,000. Understand that the more you can pay over the minimum, the more he has going towards his cash value that he has access to day one. This is the amount of cash he has access to by the end of that year. Very close to that by the beginning of the year as well. So $22,400 is what he has access to use for anything he wants, okay? What you see there is what you get. There are no surrender charges. There are no fees associated with that. Everything else, okay, that $4,500, okay, is going towards that $881,000 of death benefit coverage. Again, for those who have policies, you already know this. So this is just a refresher. For those who don't, let this kind of give you an understanding of how this works. Keep in mind, we can make policies that are, around 100 to 150 minimum, okay, a month minimum. So keep that in mind. But the way that we like to design these is we like to work backwards from your objectives, not necessarily coverage amounts that you want, but what are your long-term objectives? What are you trying to achieve? Let's work back to see how much cash you're looking to build up in order to use for whatever it is you want to use it for. Let's work from there to figure out your premium, okay? Other thing is, let's see here. So flexibility of premiums is a big thing. In year one, okay, again, that $22,000 is what we have available. Also, year three, if we look at year three, let me highlight here. Year three, okay, we have, we reach what's called the capitalization point, okay? Understand, Edgar mentioned a cost of doing business, okay? Those first 2 years, you'll notice here, there's a cost of doing business. The insurance company needs to recover. They need to front load their risk. If he were to die the next day, they're out a ton of money. So he understands that this is a long-term play, okay? So in the third year, though, he's actually recouping the cash value. He's making money. So he puts in $27,000, and his cash value increases by $29,000. Okay, so that third year is pivotal. We call that the capitalization point. Moving to year four, we have what's called the break-even point. He's put in a total of 108. All right, and he has 109 of cash value that's grown in the policy. Now he has more than what he initially put in on his own. Okay, that's called the break-even point. Year four for him. Year six, notice here that he goes down to the minimum premium. Okay, he's elected to pay into this max premium for 5 years, really build up his cash value aggressively, and then go down to the $5,000 minimum for the next 5 years. And so he does that for 5 years, and then voila, guess what? He decides to stop at year 10. He decides to stop at year 10, which he has every right to do. Now his policy, his dividend is paying his premium, and he's no longer coming out of pocket for a premium. And guess what? His cash value continues to grow. His cash value continues to grow, all right? At that point, though, why would you want to stop? Every $5,000 you're putting in, you're getting an increase of $19,000 on the other end. You'll look around and say, why would I want to put my money in a bank and get, half a cent on every dollar that I put in? Okay, when you can put it in your policy at this point, you've overcome the upfront cost, and now it's just everything is gravy. All right, so in this policy, he's making about 5.5% return. Okay, you'll notice also that his death benefit goes down by about $200,000. Why? Because he's not contributing cash value to the a premium to the policy. All right, but you'll notice also that actually starts going back up. Okay, over time. All right, so what else do I want to say here? Anything else? If you were to look at this column right here, it's almost like this column is your bank. Okay, he's putting money. This is the accumulated premium outlay that he's put in over the course of time. Think of it as your bank. You're not making any return in your bank because of taxes, fees, and inflation. And so essentially what you put in is what you get. You're actually kind of losing money. But in this case, that column, think of it as your bank. In this column here, again, because of the power of what we're able to do with life insurance, cash value, his money continues to earn as if he never touched it. Okay, he's paying back into the policy over 10 years. He took that loan at year 4. He's paying back over 10 years. So at year 14, he's got $294,000 of cash value that now he can go and use that for something else, another investment. Eventually, he's going to use this for retirement as a tax-free means of tax-free supplement to his retirement. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, let me know. Brian and I would love to talk more about your policy and how we can design something like this for you. Thank you.